All right. We are off
Good
and
morning,
running
Jerry.
from the Built Ford Tough studio. It's Sal and Jerry in for Boomer and Gio on this Tuesday morning, August 30th, 2022. We got Zoo, we got Fliegelman. CeeLo is back from Nashville where he got trashed, got drunk, did some stupid things.
Did he?
Is still married, though, so that's a good thing. He will be in later in the hour. We've got lots to talk about. R.J. Barrett. Get used to saying his name. We're continuing to say his name. Oh, and the Yankees played last night. Many of you probably didn't see it because if you're up now, you weren't up until midnight watching it. They didn't win. We'll get to that as well. But I will say this as I say good morning to Sal Licata. Never good when right before we go on, I get this from Sal. Does my face look fat?
No,
and boy, oh boy, is the week over yet? And it's Tuesday. Hi, Sal. How are you?
Good morning, Jerry. I said, is my face still swollen? I woke up.
Swollen. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
I woke up this morning. I don't know what, I think just lack of sleep, potentially improper
You look
diet.
fine. You look fine.
Well, thanks. Well, when you first wake up, sometimes you get the eyelids swollen. I look at them, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing here? What time is it? 3? I'm getting up so early now that the alarm doesn't have to go off. 3:53. I woke up this morning.
Look at you.
Oh God.
When was the alarm set for? About 4:05?
Yeah, exactly. 4. I have one for 4, one for 4:05.
Perfect.
And get up, shower, and here we are.
And here you are, yeah.
But I was looking at myself like, oh, man, I can't go on TV like this.
You look handsome.
All that stuff. I did not know about the R.J. Barrett stuff until literally seconds before the show where I just saw it. So I knew the Yankees lost. I didn't know about R.J. Barrett. I guess he's not getting traded.
No, he's not getting traded. So we can do this now if you'd like. So R.J. Barrett gets he doesn't get the max rookie extension, and it's not done yet. They're close to it, but his agent is talking as if they've pretty much agreed to the terms. 4 years, $120 million, rookie extension. This note, I could not believe when I read, and I probably knew it, but it's one of those things you just kind of forget along the way. First drafted Knick to get a extension since Charlie Ward.
Charlie Ward. That's embarrassing.
That is unbelievable.
That's embarrassing.
Like how many misses they've had with drafting or guys that were good that they traded, like Kristaps Porzingis, who you could have, I think you thought was going to be here a long time.
David Lee comes to mind. What happened with him?
I don't know. I'm telling you what I read. I copied it. I pasted it.
First drafted Knick that signed an extension since Charlie Ward.
That is unreal.
And then you wonder why they've sucked for 2 decades.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about mismanagement like crazy. That is unreal. And so now the whole thing with Donovan Mitchell is still alive from the standpoint of what they want, by all accounts, is 4 unprotected first-round draft picks.
Well, don't the Knicks have that?
They don't want to part with more than 2. So,
unprotected.
Unprotected.
Because I thought the report
5.
that I saw was, okay, and like
2 unprotected,
of them, okay, right.
3 protected first-round picks. So there's still a path for this to get done. The difference is R.J. Barrett's now off the table, whereas it seemed like he was kind of in the mix, and I guess the Knicks gave Danny Ainge a deadline of last night, basically. If we don't figure this out, we're signing him. And they didn't figure it out, and they're calling each other's bluffs, and now Barrett is here for a long time.
And now he's officially off the table.
Which, by the way, I'm not a Knicks fan, but I love R.J. Barrett. I really do. I think he's gotten better each year, and he's 22 for God's sake.
Yeah, and I don't love R.J. Barrett as much as some Knicks fans do. I mean, these bing-bongers are nuts. They love everybody. But R.J. Barrett is a kid who wants to be here, has worked hard every single year. He's improved his game every year, so I have no problem with the extension. And I also don't think that the Knicks could have included him in that trade. And initially it sounded like, no, the Knicks will not include R.J. Barrett. And then over the last month,
it sounded like they would.
Yeah, it was like, oh, well, R.J. Barrett is still on the table, and now obviously it's done. So if there is going to be a deal with Donovan Mitchell, this was the right move to me for the Knicks. No wishy-washy. Look, Barrett is ours now. You didn't, for whatever deal they wanted to try to come up with, didn't happen with Utah. R.J. Barrett now off the table, and they move forward with or without Donovan Mitchell. I think they still should be able to get it done without having to give up R.J. Barrett.
I thought this was interesting. So I had Gerald Brown from SiriusXM on the network show that I did on Sunday morning. And, I said to him, like, what are we waiting for? Like, at some point, we know Mitchell wants New York. We know Utah's looking to unload him and basically appease him and put him where he wants to go. And it's like days and weeks are going by and nothing's happening. Training camps are going to start relatively soon, within the next month. Training camps are going to open. And I said, is it possible that Donovan Mitchell goes back to Utah? I mean, I don't know what kind of kid he is. He seems, by all accounts, to be a really good guy. I don't know that.
He'd
but
be
that's
great here.
What
just
it seems
personality-wise.
He had a really good theory. Basically was Danny Ainge is going to hold out for what he wants, and if he doesn't get it, he will tell Mitchell, you're going to come to training camp. We're going to use you for the first half of the season. I didn't realize the All-Star game's in Utah this year. Go headline the All-Star game, and we'll get you out of here before the All-Star break. Because at that point, maybe they're dealing from an even better position of strength for teams that really need him at that point, as opposed to just appeasing him and putting him to where he wants to go and not getting what you want exactly for him.
I understand that idea. Let me go the other way, though. If the Jazz know what they want, which apparently it's the picks, right?
Yes.
Nobody else that Mitchell has interest in, or nobody else that is interested. Who do we see? Miami, the Nets, a couple other teams.
It's really the Knicks right now.
Well, that's what I mean.
It's the Knicks.
The Knicks are dealing from a position of power. And by the way, they have the picks. It's not like the Knicks are trying to rip them off.
But here's the thing. You've got two sides here. You've got Utah, if in fact what he was saying is accurate. You've got Utah that's basically saying, we'll just take them back and we'll play it out and we'll trade them later.
And the Knicks are saying, fine, you want to do that? Go ahead.
And the Knicks, who are like, well, we'll call your bluff because I'm not giving you 4 unprotected picks, even though we have it. We'll give you 5, but 2 unprotected, and it's basically a poker match right now.
So why not just meet in the middle and maybe give 3 unprotected picks?
So you've got there's this other idea that you could get the Lakers involved in a three-way trade and get a couple of unprotected picks from them somehow. It's so the NBA is so convoluted. And I don't know.
I see what you're saying. Where Utah could end up getting the unprotected picks from somewhere else.
They could end up with 4, but not necessarily all from New York.
And then what would the Knicks have to give up instead of?
I would think they probably wouldn't have to give up more than their 2.
Now, this would be in addition to. I want to know what players. I don't give a crap about the picks. I don't care whether they're unprotected or not. It doesn't matter to me. We're at the point now with the Knicks where what's the difference? Like, they made their draft picks. Now it should be about players and trying to win, because if things are going the way that you expect, at the very least, the Knicks are going to be a middle of the pack team.
They should be a good team.
Like, even last year, they weren't any good, and they still didn't have a top pick.
Right.
So, like, where's the great value in
that?
Not
to mention how young they are.
Well, right. They're very young, too. So I want to know what players. Like, is Quentin Grimes going the other way?
Grimes' name, Cam Reddish's name. These are a couple
Cam
of
Reddish,
names I've
couldn't
heard.
care less. Obi Toppin, I like Obi Toppin, but I'd be okay if he left. The one guy that I'd be like, is Quentin Grimes. I'm okay with Obi Toppin, and I understand, like, Emmanuel Quickley's got some potential. Somebody's got to go the other way.
Of course.
You can't just keep everybody. So the one of those 3 that I would like to keep the most would probably be Quentin Grimes, although maybe his skill set, I know he's going to be a shooter. I'm just trying to think maybe it's similar to Donovan Mitchell in that regard. Either way, it's probably going to be 2 of those 3 players, or it's going to be all 3 plus the picks if the Knicks make that deal.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know. Right now you're in a holding pattern, and I would say the best way to describe it is that talks have stalled between the 2 sides. And so as we sit here, as we're about to approach September, he's Donovan. It's amazing when you think, and I really do go back to Rudy Gobert, because Rudy Gobert's deal has redefined the trade market to where the Nets could not trade Kevin Durant, and now Utah has trouble, and they did it with Gobert, so it's on them. But if you're looking to get rid of Mitchell, who I think you would agree is a better player than Gobert was, you want a bigger haul for it. It's hard. It's really difficult to do, and then you throw into the mix all these ridiculous rules that they have about who you can trade, rookie deal. I mean,
by the way, how would the Nets get involved here? Because when I read that,
I have no idea.
Okay, I didn't go any further than, like, come on, the Nets. What the hell are they going to give up to get?
I saw that too as a headline. I can't. That's not real.
They have enough picks that Utah would win.
I don't know.
Whatever.
I have no idea. I really don't. It's so confusing to me. And when you also see some of these picks that are going into the late 2020s, I mean, you're talking about draft picks in 2027, 2029.
Right.
First of all, it sounds like a futuristic movie when we're mentioning those years.
I was going to say, it's not that far off.
It's not that far off.
Right.
But that's what you're kind of dealing with. And the whole thing is just, it's complicated.
Now, one more on this. Does Mitchell he doesn't have any say on this, right? I mean, I know he could give his opinion and say where he wants to go, but ultimately Utah has total control.
My guess is all these NBA guys have some say.
Because if they just say, I'm not going to play there or I don't want to go there, then that team is not going to trade for him.
I don't know the answer to that, but that would be my guess. It's kind of like...
Well, KD, he didn't have...
He had no leverage, 0.
But
the Nets were trying to do him right by, appeasing him to the places he wanted to go, but then you quickly find out couldn't make moves because of different rules that were put into place. And then you start looking at other places where he would have a chance to win because, not that they would do it, but... If you sent him to Sacramento, for instance, What if he doesn't report?
Right.
Like if you're the Kings, you're not making that deal because he's not going to want you.
Right, exactly.
So in some way, shape, or form, they're always going to. They've got so much money, it doesn't matter.
Right. I don't need a no trade clause. If I don't want to go, I'm not going.
Not going.
It's wrong. It's not good for the sport.
Now, on the flip side to that, you could make the case that the Nets obviously played hardball with him and didn't trade him. I know they had the conversation last Monday, but whatever. And they could tell him just to sit. He still has a chance to. They did, but this is also a place he still has a chance to win. So why would you sit out here when you can win? As much as you might not like someone in the organization, you still have a really good chance to win, as opposed to sending him somewhere where it's NBA death.
Well, I get that, but ultimately he did not get his way.
No, but you know what's funny?
Screamed and complained about.
You know what's so interesting about that, though? You know what's interesting about that is I'm sure you saw the articles over the weekend that Kobe Bryant did this with the Lakers back in the day too.
Right.
Which, God rest us all. We've talked about Kobe like he's this immortal, and we know he was a great player and all that. You forget about that.
But didn't he want to
think of him as the ultimate Laker? But he wanted out.
Right. But didn't he just want them to improve the team?
Well, whatever the case may be, he went and requested a trade from the Lakers.
Right.
Kobe Bryant wanted away from the Lakers. And that was written about. And then they ultimately, mended fences, figured it out, and then the rest is history. And you see how the rest of that career went.
And you don't know, I did not read the details on it, but I would just assume, first of all, it is a different circumstance where Kobe wasn't going team to team to team to team. Now,
True.
If he did request a trade, whatever that happens, and maybe he was just doing it as leverage, who knows. With KD, I feel like it was a little different. And then it was specific where if Marks and Nash are still here, I want to, look, I'm glad the Nets stood strong. You and I were talking about this way before, right after saying, hey, it looks like, you do the math and use some common sense here. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
They need to play hardball with him. And I told you, that's what I would have done. I would have said, and you're not going anywhere. I don't care. Sit there. You're not playing this year then.
Especially at 34.
Yeah, right. I don't care. You think your value is this? You want to go here? Guess what? They don't want you. They're not giving enough for you back. So I'd rather you just sit there and waste away than go play for somebody else on the cheap. It's not happening.
That's why when people would bring up Ben Simmons, he sat out. Yeah, but Ben Simmons wasn't 34 years old. He still had his career ahead of him. Whereas if Durant at this point sits out a season or two, what are you left with? It's the end.
Whether they're good or not, Jared.
They're a soap opera.
Oh, my God.
And they're going to be good. I'm telling you right now, they're going to be good.
Simmons,
They're going to be good.
Irving, Kevin Durant, Nash, and on and on.
What will be incredibly satisfying is when they are really good and I smush it in your face.
Yeah, well, I really
It'll be fun. That'll be fun.
Here's the thing. I don't care, and I've heard you talk about this, all the net haters, and I can't listen to people who don't.
Correct.
I never, but I'm not one of them because I never hated the Nets. I never cared enough about them to hate them. I didn't like the way that I was mad that they got rid of Atkinson. I was mad that they got rid of Jared Allen. I liked the way that they were building the team the right way, the hard way. I hated that they went and sold their soul to Kyrie and KD and then traded for Harden. And look, I've been proven to be right because they have been a mess so far. Now, like you said, with that talent, they could go out there and turn it around and win. But I just never believed in the way that the Nets were doing business. And that has proven to be correct because it's been a circus. It's been one negative thing over another.
Hasn't been great. Has not been great. But then you would have taken them in a heartbit if you could have got them.
I understand that.
But that's right.
Well, Kyrie, I don't know. KD, yes.
If you were getting Durant and Irving at that time, a Knick fan would have.
No, but
it's hard. It's easy to say right now you wouldn't have. Everybody out there wanted that.
But I'm saying at the time, I remember having reservations about Kyrie because he was a problem and had knee issues.
But if the package was the two of them, which is what it was, I agree with you.
Right, but could you imagine what a disaster it would have turned out to be?
Well, it might have played out differently. You don't know that.
I think
everything could have
been
been different. Maybe, but it also could have been better. There were moments in the last few years. Take away the first year because obviously, I don't know if you heard, Durant got paid not to play that year.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
so let's take that one away. They still. This is what's so comical about this. Yes, it's been a train wreck. I agree. If his toe isn't on the line, we're talking about one of the greatest postseason performances ever. That's how good he was that night. With Kyrie out, Harden hurt, basically putting an organization on his shoulders.
He's great. I mean,
It was unbelievable watching that game. And he was gassed for the next game. They wound up losing fine, but they were that close to being in the conference final.
He is one of the great talents to ever play in this city. But there was
a brief period. I agree. There was a brief period there where, and we didn't see it often, but when they were playing together, they were unbeatable.
Right.
Unfortunately,
I'll be honest with you. Now that they've gone through this turmoil, there's a part of me. Now, I'm not a Nets fan, but there is a part of me that wants to see. I do
what
want
it is.
Yeah, I want to see. Well, I want to see them work together. I want to see it.
I agree.
I want to see it play out. I don't want to deal with the nonsense. I don't want to hear about KD and the Twitter and where he wants to go. I don't want to hear about Kyrie and the vaccination. I want to see them play together and go prove people wrong. Make it work. I want to see what they could do. Now, I bet against them as I've been, but still, I want to see how it could gel together here. After the adversity, now they're together one way or another. Let's see it pan out.
I'll ask you this, and I know common sense sometimes flies out the window when you put common sense and Kyrie Irving in the same sentence. But common sense-wise, just think of this. He had an opportunity to get himself dealt if he could find a suitor. Couldn't this year. Why is that? Because he's been a pain in the ass. I completely agree with you. He's got one chance.
This is it.
It's this season, and I don't think it'll be with the Nets. He's got one season to go out and show people, again, what he still can be and what he is and how he can be, with the team and not be fighting and bickering. And that would probably equal 5 years, $250 million. Or he might have another one-year contract in front of him.
I think you are going to get the best that Kyrie Irving. And now,
I agree.
I hate even saying that because now I'm putting my word out there.
No, but I agree.
I
agree with you, though.
If he's worth anything, you're going to get the best that Kyrie Irving has to offer this year, which should put people on notice because it could be scary.
I will tell you this: from following along on social media this summer, they've been grinding. Like they all are. Don't get me wrong, but like he's visibly been working, and so if you don't, then they just don't have it in him anymore.
And you think Nash stays no matter what, or
no.
maybe okay?
No, I think if they get off to a bad start, I think he's done.
Yeah,
he was. Let's put all the nonsense aside for a second. He was horribly outcoached last year,
right?
In that series with the Celtics, right?
I don't have to, but I thought that they brought him in.
See,
they both said that, it doesn't matter what it is. We'll roll the ball.
Yes, they did. But what happens is, and that's true for the regular season. But when you actually have to do things and come up with schemes, especially when you're going up against a coach and a team that was as tight knit as the Celtics were and knew what they were doing, doesn't work. It's not so easy.
I'll take it one step further. I know we can move on here. If the Nets actually, and I'm not trying to get like I don't want to say fire Nash because he sucks, but if they actually got a real head coach in there, then I would be like, look out. It's now going to happen. Or a guy who can get those two to play hard, build a team, playoff experience, all that, command respect. That's where they really lost me was when they went with Steve Nash.
There was one rumor that I think you'll like. Buck Showalter. All right, 6:18 on the Fan and CBS Sports Network.